for somewhere to rest my head, someplace to call my bed when it gets dark here. Black water rising, even it knows I'm not done yet. Still following what you said for a fresh start. Yeah. Shipwreck on your shore, heard you long ago. Siren, siren song. Shipwreck, far from home, heard you long ago. Siren, siren song.
Good class. I thought I'd give a brief week 14. I guess we're in modular 14, week 14 lecture here. I've been reading some of the discussion board posts as it relates to a doll's house. And for what I've been reading, everything looks like it's coming out pretty well grade wise. There's some things that you need to sort of pay attention to. If you go back, I've added feedback when I'm grading your initial post. I'm putting feedback on your Word document if you uploaded it as a Word document. You should have some feedback there that should be helpful, really moving into the last few weeks of our class, because basically, if you haven't started collecting those 8 scholarly sources for the research paper, you probably want to go ahead and start that this week. If you looked in your lesson page, a couple things we need to talk about, I guess, just so that you can know where everything is at. If you go back to week 11 or module 11, you will find the research paper topics. You'll also find information about how to cite drama. Some of y'all are still having issues. You had issues with the trifle discussion post when it came to citing drama. Some of y'all either didn't go back and look at this for a doll's house discussion post when citing drama, but I would definitely go back and review this because you need to know how to cite drama for your particular research paper. But again, here's where you'll find the topics. You click on that, it will download. You can open those up. I'll pull them up again. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I'm sort of just going to hit the high notes because it deals with the 2 plays that we are engaging in for this unit. So again, MLA 9, double space, Times New Roman, 12 font, the same essay format that you've been using since week 1. Some of y'all have actually done better with that. Some of y'all are still, I don't understand why you're not using Microsoft Word to upload your stuff. But that's the reason why. If you're not getting really decent feedback, it's because you're typing the stuff in the text box, and I can't really provide little comments in the text box that's on Blackboard. So you have to use Microsoft Word to get that type of feedback. Again, this paper needs to be 7 to 10 pages in length, or 1750 to 2500 words. So whatever sort of comes first for you. You need to use at least 8 scholarly sources. Scholarly sources could be scholarly books, ebooks, scholarly journals, e-journals, scholarly websites. Wikipedia is not a scholarly website, neither is SparkNotes or any of those other literary cliff note type deals. You can use film, you can use podcasts, as long as it's academic and scholarly in nature. You need to have at least 8. So my suggestion would probably be maybe 3 books, 3 journal articles. That would be 6 right there. Then 2 websites. And then you want to use your 2 primary sources, which should be the 2 plays. Plus the works cited page. Now, the works cited page don't actually count toward your word count or a page. but it needs to be on a separate page. So if you end on page 8, your works cited page needs to start on page 9. If you end on page 7, your works cited page needs to be on page 8. It doesn't count as a full page because it's just a list of sources, but that's how MLA wants you to do it. The other thing is, don't put stuff on that works cited page if you're not paraphrasing, quoting, or summarizing parenthetically through the body of your research paper. Just throwing sources on the works cited page doesn't mean squat because it doesn't tell me how you're using it. You need to show me how you're using it, because I know with some of these discussion posts, I see 3 or 4 entries on the works cited page, but you only use the play. So technically that can flag you down for plagiarism. And I mean, if you're not citing this stuff correctly, you will get caught plagiarizing, and that would be a 0 for the research paper, which is probably something you do not want to have this late in the course. I mean, if you fail the research paper, failing meaning anything between 0 and a 69, so to say, it will probably drop your grade 2-letter grades, if not more. So if you have an 80 in the class, you get a 0 or whatever for plagiarizing or using AI or whatever, you get caught, or you just don't do well on the paper, your 80 will probably be a 60 or lower at that point. And don't forget, we still have the final exam that deals with the 2 plays. If you looked at the study guide, I will show you where you can find that again. The final exam is going to be a true-false quiz or exam, let's say. 5 questions are going to come from A Doll's House. 5 questions are going to come from Trifles. There's going to be a combination, some actually from the actual text of the plays, but also, if you remember last week, there was 2 videos of the plays, so you may have questions from those 2 films. So if you didn't go back and watch the films, you probably want to do that before December 8th, because that's when it's going to be due. I will say that there's probably going to be 5 that are going to be true and 5 that are going to be false. Now, with the ones that are false, to get full points, because just putting F there for false is only going to give you 5 points. To get the other 5 points, you have to turn that false statement into a true statement. That's the only way you're going to get partial credit with the false. If it's true, you just mark T and move on. So there's 10 questions, 10 points apiece. So that's how that's going to go. And again, that needs to be in by 11:59 on our last day of our semester, because we're online, which would be Sunday, December 8th. Now, the research paper, what we're looking at now, needs to be in by 11:59 on Wednesday, December 4th. Once these Dropbox closes down, I'm not reopening them again. I don't have time to be hunting you down. I don't have time to be hearing the excuses you overslept or forgot or didn't realize. We've been talking about this for weeks now. You either get it in before the deadline or just know that you're going to take a 0, and it's probably going to damage your grade really badly, especially if you get 2 zeros on the research paper and the final exam. You're probably not going to be able to come back from that. Definitely, I can tell you that. So adhere to the deadlines. I'd rather you turn something in earlier and maybe not get so high on it than take a 0. But I got 4 other classes besides this one that are going to be doing research papers and final exams, and they're going to want final grades from all of us probably by 6 o'clock on Wednesday, December 11th. So, I'm going to be in grade mode. Let's just say this, because I know some of y'all actually do things correctly, turn things in earlier. So by the time we come back on Thanksgiving break, which would be December 2nd, that Monday, I'm going to be in grade mode. So if there's stuff that's already there, I'm going to go ahead and start grading it. So I'm not having to, grade, which is usually what I have to do with these types of things, all the way up until the very last minute almost of when final grades are due. So with that said, probably, starting December 12th, whatever your weighted total shows in on your blackboard, that's your semester grade. That's the grade I'm sending to the college. That's going to be part of your official transcript. So you should be able to check Blackboard starting on December 12th to see what your final grade is for the class. So again, you have several choices here to choose from. There's six. They all deal with the two plays, but again, you're going to have to go out there and start that research process if you haven't already. This is something you just cannot wait a day or two before it's due if you expect to get a really good grade. Now, I mean, most of y'all, if you're in this class, you've had 1101 English at some point. That last bit of that semester of English 1101, you should have done a research paper. So you should already know how to use Galileo and go to the library and check out books, whether it's public library, college library, if you're a dual enrollment student, your high school library. A lot of this stuff as it relates to the research aspect, you should have had a librarian possibly. I know when I teach 1101, I always have a college librarian come in and show my students how to conduct research for their research paper. So at some point, you should have had a person from the library that came in that talked to you about how to find research. All right, so again, module 11 or week 11 is where you're going to find research paper topics. If we kick back out, let's see, here's some information here. That's the reason why I put up the guided library orientation. It's still up there. It's nearly 14 minutes. If you didn't watch that and you need to get resources like books and journal articles from the library, you might want to go back and watch that before it gets too late. Back up here again, week 13. This is where you're going to find the final exam study guide. Here, again, I talk a little bit about in-text citations, a generalization of it. Generally, what you should have got in 1101. This is where you're going to find the two plays. Again, some of your final exam may have some questions from the two plays. I give you a library orientation slideshow. Again, if you did that extra credit, the pre and the post test with the library orientation, that should have helped you as well as it relates to finding stuff. If we click here, I'm going to pull this study guide up. Some of y'all have already been asking questions about it. If you review this study guide and are able to sort of answer this, I mean, I pretty much take the questions that I have on the exam and sort of turn it into a study guide. So if you're able to follow this and study this, you know, you watched both films of the plays, you really read both text of the plays, and if you're able to go through and sort of study this and learn this, because I tell you what you need to sort of focus on in each aspect of the play, then the final exam shouldn't be too big of a deal. Because I originally had it as another writing component, but then I was like, well, I mean, you've already written a good bit over the last couple of weeks with the discussion post. You're going to write a good bit, you know, 7 to 10 pages with the research paper. Plus, I'm thinking time for me as it relates to grading and get everything back. That's why I decided to do the final exam or exam 3 as a true false. But again, there's a little catch with that false. If it's false, you have to turn it into a true statement to get the full 10 points on those particular questions. So, I mean, you can just put false and move on and get 5 points. If that's, I mean, that's what you want to do. But I know most of y'all probably want to do really well on this. So just sort of keep that tidbit in mind. So hopefully you watch some of these lectures, because I do talk a little bit more about the research paper, about the final exam, so on and so forth. If we go back to this week, which is basically modular 14, really, I want you to take this week and next. I know next week is Thanksgiving break, but again, I'm pretty sure, because I haven't seen any drafts from anybody or haven't really heard too much from for most people in this course as it relates to the research paper yet. I mean, if you haven't, I gave you sort of a tentative research paper schedule to follow. If you already have a topic in mind, have already done some of this, then you may not, I mean, you may be ahead of the game at this point, which is good. It's better to be ahead than be 2 or 3 weeks behind. If you're behind, meaning you didn't pick a topic yet and haven't really started thinking about picking 8 sources and picking out quotations from both of the plays and quotations and stuff that you want to cite from your 8 sources, then I would definitely follow this plan. Because otherwise, if you're basically in the same position this week as you are next week with nothing to show for it, you're behind, really behind. And you're going to start feeling that stress, especially with the crazy part of next week, Thanksgiving Eve, Thanksgiving, Black Friday. You got family coming in, you got friends coming in, you're going to see family or friends. Before you know it, we come back and it's December 2nd. You only have 2 days now to do a 7 to 10 page research paper and don't have any research. And that's usually where folks start to, oh, well, I can just use AI. He won't know. Or I can buy a paper. He won't know. Yeah, we're going to know. I'm going to run through some checkers. Your paper automatically gets run through SafeAssign that checks for plagiarism. So, I mean, if you get caught with that, I caught somebody with the SA2 with plagiarized, that's really easy to grade 0 once it flags it and pops it up on me. So, I'm not going to be playing around with the AI stuff or the plagiarism. If you get caught with it, I mean, you're just going to get a 0 and I'm moving on to the next paper. I'm not going to hear the excuse. I'm not going to, y'all have had time. You've had since really the end of October, I guess, because I popped modular 11 up there during that week. So, I mean, if you look at it, you had the whole month of November. You had a little, about a week of October, and then you have about a week of at least a half a week of December. So you've had nearly 6 weeks to work on some aspect of the research paper and prepare for the final exam. If you're not using your time wisely, then that's on you. So again, if you feel like you're behind, if you haven't really started anything with the research paper, I give you a day by day thing to sort of follow for this week. You may need to double up if you didn't do everything you needed to do yesterday. You may have to triple or double up because now we're Tuesday. So on the 19th and the 20th, you need to be finding those scholarly sources, those 8 scholarly sources. On the 21st, you need to sort of do an outline, follow these little steps. I give you these steps because if you follow these a little bit each day, you won't feel the stress on your back, on your shoulder. We're getting into that crazy period where the flu's coming and all that stuff. So if your immune system is already compromised because you're stressed out about a lot of other things going on, you definitely don't want to get sick 2 weeks before the semester ends. Because again, I can't extend stuff. Deadlines are set. Deadlines are not going to change from here on out. When things are due, the 4th and the 8th, that's when they're due. Once the Dropbox closes, hey, if it's in there, great. If it's not, keep it because I'm not going to take it late. It's just going to be a 0. And I'm telling all my classes that. The other thing is, again, if you need to learn how to cite poetry, songs, and plays, there's a short, about 6-minute video here. Definitely look at the 10 types of plagiarism. Again, a little less than 7 minutes. You want to look at that because nobody wants to get a 0 for plagiarizing the paper. Using AI is a form of plagiarism. So don't get caught on either ends of that. If you go back to the lessons, because we don't really have a week. I mean, the college technically is open Monday, but since we're online, it's not really going to apply to us so much. I give you sort of a schedule during Thanksgiving break if you need to follow it. Again, I kind of tell you, Monday, the 25th to the 26th, you need to go ahead and start doing a draft. 27th up to Thanksgiving, you need to go ahead and do a first draft of the body paragraphs. 29th through the 1st of December, you need to go ahead and just have that full 7 to 10 page draft done. Again, if you are traveling or don't want to do a whole lot with me, for this particular class over the break because you're trying to regroup and everything, like I tell all my classes when it gets to this point, you need to have the full 7 to 10 page rough draft or your research paper done by Thanksgiving at that point. Otherwise, you're really going to be feeling the stress because when we do come back on the 2nd, you only basically have 48 hours to get it done. So that's why I put a little timer here. You got 15 days. It's sort of to add a little extra pressure to you, especially if you like to procrastinate. This is letting you know in 15 days, this research paper is due. Not going to extend the deadline. I'll also put it down here for this. You got 19 days before the final exam is due. Again, I'm not extending the deadline. These things are due when they're due. So, I mean, the final exam is probably going to open probably after Thanksgiving. So if you want to go ahead and kind of take that early, you can once it opens up. You will need a password. The password is going to be on the actual text information right here. You will find it. So read that text information once it pops up. But again, I mean, things are going to open up early for you. You can kind of take it early. If you come here to Modular 15, I sort of give you that really the last 3 days before the research paper is due, sort of a schedule to follow. Again, I give you some more information about quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing this in case you still need to go through. This video is a little bit longer, but it's good information. Again, it should be a review from 1101 English. I also give you what a sample research paper looks like. Click on that, read that, look at it. It's going to be different topics, but it shows you how the style and stuff is set up, how to use secondary sources, how to use your primary sources. And, after the 24th or so, the actual drop box for your research paper, the final draft that you want me to grade will open up here in Modular 15. The final exam will open up, like I said, probably after Thanksgiving. Well, it'll probably open up after December 4th, but I may open that up a little bit. Let's do this. I have it popped up after Thanksgiving. So on from the 29th to December 8th, you should have access to it. And let me see here real quick. I will make this available. Sort of the same deal. I will make an announcement soon as it gets closer. But you should be able to see this after the 28th. So starting on, let's say, Black Friday, here's the password. You will find the password once this opens up in this section. So please use that password once the final exam. Again, you don't have to wait to December 8th, but I understand if you're still working on the research paper, I'm just opening it up so you have basically, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You would have nearly 10 days to get the final exam in if you plan on wanting to sort of do that earlier. So it's not like I'm going to pop it up and you're only going to have 3 days to do it. You're going to have a full week and 3 days, I guess, to get that final exam in there. But again, the big thing right now is the research paper, focusing on that. If you go up here, I would use this online tutoring.com. Upload your paper, submit your paper, follow the instructions because it's going to look different on your end. I would use them, have them look at your rough draft. Once they send the feedback, on your rough draft, fix it. And then if it's not too late, send me that new draft. Probably the last day I can look at drafts is going to be Sunday, December 1st by midnight on Sunday, December 1st. Now, again, if I, have nearly 70 drafts come in all at once during that time, I can't guarantee that I can look at everybody's draft effectively. So it's going to be a first time, first basis at that point. I wouldn't necessarily wait until December 1st to just cram stuff in. Otherwise, I would just utilize and use tutor.com and let them help you out if you're going to wait that late to do a lot of this stuff. Because we got the rest of this week, you can send me drafts. You can send me some drafts next week. Now, granted, just like everybody else, probably the 27th, 28th, it's probably going to be pretty busy for folks. You can send drafts and emails. I may or may not get to them until the 29th or the 30th. Definitely, if you send stuff, before the 27th, I should be able to get back to you. I'm still trying to get grades caught up on other classes too, and 1102. So we're all kind of busy on different fronts, different ends with different classes, but that's sort of where we're at. So we have the full week this week. The week of the 25th, we sort of go away. We come back on the 2nd, have a full week that week. The paper is due on the 4th. We end our class with the final exam on Sunday the 8th, and then we're done. So if you really want to look at it, we have what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We have less than 20 days in our semester with only 2 assignments left. So make sure that, you finish the last 20 days strong. So we hope that your final semester average will increase from where it's at. That's the hope. But we will, have to see how things are going to go with that. But again, if you need any help, don't wait until the last minute and start asking a whole bunch of questions December 2nd. Hey, I didn't realize we had a research paper in the final exam. Yeah, I've been talking about it since at least, this week's week 14. So I definitely been talking about the research paper and giving some information about the final exam over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So if you've been watching the lecture videos or keeping up with what's going on online, then you would have known after Halloween what's up. So yeah, so next week there probably won't be a lecture video, obviously, because it's Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a wonderful and great Thanksgiving. I hope you're able to regroup, rest a little bit. I mean, honestly, if you've been working a little bit each day, you may not have to work as much over the break. If you've got a lot going on and know that that's probably the only time you're going to be able to work, then obviously utilize that time wisely so you can, balance out family and friends with rest, eating, getting stuff done that you need to get done. Because when we come back, it's basically we're just wrapping up the paper and getting, wrapping up the course with the final exam. So this may be the last. I may have one more lecture for, when we come back from Thanksgiving break, just sort of, reiterating, hey, this is due and this is due. But as far as really learning anything new, we're not having to learn anything new at this point. I just want you to go out and, collect the sources, read your sources, pick out the quotations and stuff that you want to use from those 8 sources, as well as the 2 plays. You got to use quotations from basically your 8 sources and your 2 primary sources for it to be a full research paper. That's the key word, using quotations and research in the actual body of your essay, not just throwing a bunch of sources on the works cited page and say, well, I read through them. Oh, okay, that's great. You read through them, but you didn't actually utilize them and use them correctly in your paper. So that's a really big red flag when you don't quote, you don't paraphrase, you don't use parenthetical citation via MLA 9 in the body of your research paper of either being plagiarized or an AI type paper. So you got to use this stuff. Um, Again, send drafts. I probably won't look at anything after December 1st. By then, like I said, December 2nd, I'm going to be in grade mode because I have a deadline, right? Of by 6 o'clock on the 11th to have everybody's grade to the registrar's office, just like every other instructor here. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. I hope your Thanksgiving next week is great. I hope you eat a lot. Hope you get some rest. Hope you fellowship with family and friends. Save on some good deals with Black Friday if you do that thing, because Christmas is right around the corner. We'll be probably about 2 weeks before Christmas once final grades are finally submitted in on the 11th. So everything's going to start wrapping up here. And before you know it, if you're coming back in the spring, which I believe we start either on the 13th or the 15th of January, that will be heading around the corner as well. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your Tuesday. And again, email me if you need any help, and I will probably see you after Thanksgiving break. Have a good one.
Long ago,